Warning. The Maverick Marketer is not for the soft, timid, or faint-hearted. If you need permission or seek approval from your mother, spouse, mates in the pub, or anyone else for that matter, this really isn't for you. If any of what you've heard puts you off in the slightest, I advise you not to listen any further. You've been warned. Prepare yourself for the no bullshit, zero fluff. Quick, dirty, and uncensored secrets for any serious coach, trainer, consultant, or speaker who wants to earn more money with less work and fewer headaches, without having to kiss ass or bend over backwards to please anyone. He's a relentless and fearless renegade who will stop at nothing to reveal the harsh, unforgiving, and brutal truth about what it really takes to succeed in this business. He's a guy people love to hate and hate to love. It's your host, Drew Edwards. The Maverick Marketer is Unleashed.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Maverick Marketer Unleashed podcast. We are, of course, joined by our co-host, Terry. Terry, how are you today?
I'm fantastic, Drew. Thank you very much for asking.
That's okay. And we have with us today a very special guest. We have Tim Templeton with us today. Tim, how are you?
I'm doing great, Drew. It is great to be here.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us as well.
Yeah, my pleasure.
For anyone who doesn't know of you, doesn't know who you are, can you give us sort of the brief intro to who you are and what you do now?
Well, certainly, Drew, and I guess the operative is brief. So that's, as a public speaker, that's always somewhat difficult. But I have over 20 years in management consulting. I've authored 4 different books. My last book is now being re-released in the second edition, which is The Referral of a Lifetime. And it's the lead publication in the Ken Blanchard series, which, if you know who Ken is, he's the fellow that authored The 1 Minute Manager, has over 20 million books in print, and just a super fellow. And what I do in The Referral of a Lifetime and working with organizations is basically understanding the power of relationships, how we put relationships first, and through that and a number of processes that comes behind that, Drew, we acquire our clients, long-term clients, and through that generate referrals and lifetime relationships.
Awesome. Excellent. So it's all about relationships and referrals, and I'll come into that in a bit more detail. But Tim, for those that don't know, tell us something about you that not many people know about you, Tim.
Well, I'll share this with you that I have 3 grown daughters, only daughters, and anyone that knew me growing up and knows me now that are my close friends, they'll just shake their head up, yes and down, and say, Templeton, there is a God. Everything equals out in the end. But I have lovely 3 daughters. They're all in their 20s. One is 30. All professionals, very proud of them. And here's the thing. The original edition of The Referral of a Lifetime has 4 key female leads, and 3 of them are based on my daughter's personalities.
Oh, wow. Excellent. By the way, I don't know if I've told you this, but Drew's my son, and Drew and I work together, and I have to say, Tim, between you and I, it's not easy at times, but I put up with it.
Yeah, yeah. But seriously, Terry, there is nothing better than that. I had the opportunity. I had a business early on when my father retired. Here's something that no one knows. In my early 20s, my father gave me his last $3,500 on the face of this planet to start my very first business. And then as he retired, he came to work for me. And those were 5 of the best years of my life in my relationship with my dad. And ultimately, he bought my business, and I took those funds and went on to purchase a factory in my late 20s. And so working with your son, what you two have going on, and any of our listeners, you get an opportunity, if you get along well enough with your parents or with your children, what a great opportunity that is to work together.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said there about being the best years of your life working with your dad, because that's exactly what Drew says, actually, Tim.
Well, yeah, I'm still young and naive, though. So.
I was going to say. Just saying.
So, Tim,
Sorry, Drew,
I was going to say, just on that, I mean, you mentioned sort of your dad helping you start your first business there and your factory. Can you tell us a bit more about your background, your entrepreneurial journey, and how you sort of came to doing what you do now?
Absolutely, Drew. I was getting ready to go to college. I took a cross-country bicycle trip with a very good friend of mine by the name of Mark Comboy. We grew up outside of Buffalo, New York, and we bicycled from New York to Texas together. And those rides, those 100-mile rides during the day, going through the Ozarks and through the cornfields of Indiana, I had more clarity on my future and what I wanted to do from those long days of riding. And I saw it perfectly. I wanted to move to California. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to start my own business. And I did all those things. I went off to school, abruptly dropped out because I thought I knew better. Bob, by the way, on a side note, Bob Seger, the great wordsmith and rock and roll star, has a great one-liner. I wish I didn't know now what I didn't know then. Still running against the wind. But anyhow, I saw it clearly, and I moved to California and ultimately did start my first business. My parents followed, and that first business was a home improvement business. And we sold insulation and solar products to homeowners in Northern California. I was very successful in that. As I mentioned, brought my father in, built the business up, sold the business to my father and my brother-in-law, and I bought an insulation factory, a 40,000 square foot facility in the San Francisco Bay Area. And how I did that is I raised money. Never raised money before. Went to Barnes & Noble, bought a book on how to write a business plan, followed it to the T, presented a plan to my mentor, my then would-be mentor of 13 years, Paul Wong, and he funded that factory for me. And we became partners right through till the day that he passed away. So that was the early years of my formation as an entrepreneur. But it's been in my bones and in my spirit my entire life. And so it's the good stuff.
Yeah, it's a great story. I've got to ask this question. Excuse my ignorance. What's the distance between New York and Texas then?
Oh, it is a little over 2,200 miles. And so it took us almost 30 days to ride that. But yeah, it was good. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you must have had a sore butt at the end of it as well.
No, it was at the beginning of that, Terry. Like most cyclists, I was out of shape when I started, but when you're out on the road, you get in shape very quickly. I mean, there's no choice. You burn the ships. You're now moving inland, and there's no going back, and so you get into shape on the road.
Yeah, what a great experience, great story there. It's yeah, excellent. And for people that don't know, how would you summarize what you do now? What's your offering to clients now, Tim?
Well, what I have, there's a couple of initiatives on the new release of my book. I'm all about the processes, obviously putting relationship first. So it doesn't matter whether you're a consultant, a coach, you're in the professional services. I've worked extensively all over the world with financial organizations like the Hartford, American Express. I've been to Africa and worked with Alexander Forbes, the biggest financial firm on the continent of Africa. And what I have done historically and I'm doing for those professionals, people in real estate, people in network marketing, it's taking the simple processes of understanding the power of our relationships, building personal and professional relationships, doing great work, and ultimately educating them through the process that when you've earned the right, they will refer you to others, and they understand the value to them for doing it. Now, what I've done, fellas, is I have teamed with a great organization that has a great software that I've had a relationship for over 20 years, and that company is called Refer.com. I'm on their teaching faculty and on their advisory board, and all the promises of my book in this edition is all delivered through this relational application that sits on top of your contact manager. It sits on top of your CRM. And then through my processes in that simple software, we generate referrals. So that's what I do for clients now. And we're just launching that with the launch of my new second edition next month.
Awesome. Just as a side note, Tim, do you know Thomas Gay?
I do, as a matter of fact. And Thomas Gay is my friend, and he is the founder of Refer.com. And so Tom is the one that has invited me on their advisory board. But I've known Tom since the 90s. Wow. I mentioned that coaching company. My partner and I originally approached Tom. He lived in San Diego at the time for investment in our organization. And that never happened, but I did strike up a relationship because he was connected to several people I knew extremely well here in San Diego. So we've had Tom and I go back about 20 years now. So yes, I do know Tom.
Yeah, he was actually on an earlier episode of this show.
Yeah, that's great. Tom is an extremely bright fellow. Tom and his partner, I mean, here's a little bit on Tom. Of course, those that listen to the show is just great. But this guy had built two organizations and hundreds of millions in exit opportunity for him and all of his shareholders. I don't know if he shared this with you, but you talk about culture and putting the relationship first. A couple of years ago, he had an anniversary of all the company employees he had 20 years prior. Now, this is 20 years prior, and over 100 of them showed up at the anniversary party. Wow. Now, that is culture, man. That is relationship, and that's what Tom brings to the table, and that's why he and I are partners, because I love that about him. And he's got the body of work to prove it.
Awesome. Excellent. And I mean, just on you keep in touch. You still keep in touch with him now, do you?
Oh, yeah. No, as a matter of fact, I was just up at his corporate offices last week in Boise, Idaho, and we're producing a product together. And he's one of the lead team members on my book launch. So, yes, awesome. We're working.
Excellent.
Small world. That is a small world, isn't it, fellas?
Very small world, but you try painting it, but that's another story. Hey, look, you've got a wealth of experience here, Tim, and you've done so much. Along this journey that you've been on, what would you say is the biggest mistake that you've made, and how did you overcome it?
Well, there are multiple experiences, and I have to tell you, I mean, I have made a lot of money. I've built businesses, and I've lost everything. I've been up and down, and that's what being an entrepreneur is about. It is being able to continually look forward, learn from your past, but when you get hit and when you get knocked down hard, like the breath is taken out of you, it's a point of gathering yourself, looking at your body of work and the things that you do, and that belief of moving forward. And so I've got more failures than I do successes, but I do want to share this with you and anyone listening right now. You will learn more from those failures, from those times when you get knocked. You will learn more. You'll become a better businessman. You'll become a better partner, and ultimately a better spouse at the end of the day because of it. And that's what life's about. That's what's being an entrepreneur about. This one thing on failure, this is interesting. I listened to, I don't know if you're familiar with Joe Polish and his organization, but he had Tony Robbins on for an interview. And I haven't followed Tony Robbins. Of course, the whole world knows about him. But I listened to an interview, and what Tony Robbins said on failure when Polish asked him, how do you handle failure? What's your process? And Robbins said, I don't have a process. He said, but I do have a mindset. And I love this, what he said. And I wrote it down, and it's so true. He said, I don't believe that life happens to me. I believe that life happens for me. And to that end, the people that I know and have worked, he said, I've failed hundreds of times, more than I want to talk about. And he said, and the people that I know that became extremely successful, they did as well. But they all shared this common denominator, is that we look at life that it happens for us and not to us, so we can move on. And that is key. I mean, those are the kind of thoughts when, at the end of the day, you look, circumstances, ups and downs. I mean, I was in the .com era that we had a big initiative that went forward. And I don't know if anybody was kicking around in March of 2000, but that's the month that NASDAQ almost went to zero. And if you were out doing a capital raise like I was at that time, you couldn't get arrested, let alone find an investor. Anyhow, that's
Great.
experience.
That's a great term there. You couldn't get arrested. I love that. Absolutely love that. Tim, you just said something about Andy Robbins. Could you just, because I just love that quote. Would you mind just repeating it again, please?
Yes, here's the quote, and this is a Tony Robbins quote. It's that life doesn't happen to me, life happens for me.
Yeah.
And that's the mindset. And so I love it. I wrote it down, and I love sharing it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's I've written it down as well. It's there's a massive lesson there. Massively there. Thanks for sharing that, Tim.
Yes, absolutely.
Tim, I mean, one of the reasons we were so keen to get you on the show was to find out more about your book, the book's called The Referral of a Lifetime, Never Make a Cold Call Again, which is it due for release in August? Am I right in thinking that?
Yes, it's going to print. It'll be on the shelves and with worldwide release on August 1st. And so, yep, absolutely. I'm really excited about this particular edition because we've added over 25% to the last edition. And more importantly, Drew, what I did was I took all of the lessons of teaching the content over a period of the past 10 years, not only updated the book and added all this new content, but I also infused all of the lessons of teaching it live over the last 10 years and the nuances to getting to the point where, again, it's still a short read. It takes obviously a little bit longer. It's a couple hundred pages, but most importantly, I've got specific steps. I've got all the processes on how to run a referral-based business, and literally, if you follow the book, and many have, you can build a 100% referral-based business through the processes. So it's very detailed and it's very complete.
Awesome.
Excellent. So, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot. Could you give us an example of some of the content of the book?
Absolutely. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm not only going to do that, I'm going to, at the end of this program, I'm going to make a short code text, and I'm going to give your listeners, based on, and I've talked to my publisher on behalf of you and your show, a text so that you can download a complimentary chapter and read a full chapter. And this particular one is the 5th one on setting up joint venture relationships with other businesses. So here's a tip. For all the business individuals out there that call in other businesses or call in consumers, one of the most prolific source of referrals is the other businesses that are connected to you, those business owners of endorsing you to their trusted client base. And so it's, obviously, oh, well, that's what we all network for. But it's how do we network? What are the processes we do? And so by understanding, number one, that's first where the fish are at. And so how do I engage at least 10 other business owners and get them comfortable to the point that they would not only take my offer, but they would send it out to their 250, 300, 500 clients and fully endorse me to them. And so ultimately, I'm able to generate referrals from that. And so the first process is really understanding of targeting those first 10. So a little coaching right now for our listeners. I want you to identify 10 businesses. They have a goal that you're going to find 10 like-minded businesses that have a client base of 250 clients or more. And what you're going to do over the next 90 days is target those individuals, and you're going to meet with those individuals one-on-one. First, learn about their business, because as they say, guys, people don't really care about what we have until what? They understand how much we care about them. And so it's an idea of really learning who they are. And once they're vetted and you choose them, because it's an application process, meaning this is reciprocal referrals. Just because they have 250 clients does not mean that you want to do business with them, because you have to believe in their services. You have to believe in what they do, and you have to match up philosophically. And so when you do, that means not only are they going to offer a specific offer from you to their clients, you're going to do the same for them, to all of your clients. And so here's the process, is once this takes hold, you have those people in play right now, so you can get to them in the next 14 days. Or if you don't, you've got the next 90 days to target those 10 businesses. And so once we learn about their business, what I want you, number two, the second step is now craft an offer. And I'll give you an example. I'm working with the Mosquito Authority here in the U.S. They have over 100 franchisees, and they're following my system. Joey Osborne's the CEO of this company, and they do a phenomenal service for homeowners in the mosquito belt all across the U.S. Is they do a service every 21 days to make homes mosquito-free. So I'm taking them through a process right now to identify those 10 other businesses. And those 10 other businesses then, through our simple platform, you can do it on your own, offers a free treatment from that business owner to their clients of the Mosquito Authority. Builds them up in this email that's sent out. It's a great value add. People understand that they can live mosquito-free, enjoy their back porch or yard for the first time ever, and not have some mosquito the size of a giant fly carry them off. And then vice versa, get ready then to offer once a month that special offer of those JV partners to your database of clients. And so that's a process that if you think through, there's a couple of moving parts, but those businesses, if you have 10 that have 250 clients, that's 2,500 people that referrer has a close personal relationship with. And if you give a killer offer to introduce whatever you do to them on behalf of that person will get the credit. You're going to get take up. You're going to increase your appointments. And when you do, your business is going to rise along with it, because all boats rise with the tide.
You're listening to Maverick Marketer Unleashed podcast. For show notes, additional resources, and podcast updates, head over to www.maverickmarketerunleashed.com.
Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. In fact, it sounds sort of really simple, and I think anyone listening to that sort of agree that in theory it all sort of makes sense. But why doesn't this happen often enough? Where do people...
I love it. That is the question. Here's the thing, guys. I mean, this is, Asmanoff, the great inventor, he said, it's not the eureka that really blows people away. It's when looking at something and the term comes out, that's interesting. That's where all the great discoveries are. Here's the point, fellas. We go, it's called gravity. It's called working downhill. And it's the simple things. While it's simple in nature, and I point this out obviously in my book, my main character Susie does, it sounds so simple, but there are levels of complexity on it. I mean, we're all looking for a referral right now. Look, everybody in the world, you, me, all of us, we want to wake up today and we want a pre-endorsed, a qualified referral sitting in our inbox. So, and we want them to call us. We don't even want to call anybody. I mean, that's what we all want, but there's a process on how we go through, put relationships first. And in this case, I'm talking about the relationships with those 10 other business owners. And so this is somewhat of a process. It's multi-step, and you just have to ultimately decide that this is important for you to follow those processes. And to answer it, yes, it's simple on the top, but like an iceberg, there are a number of steps below the waterline that you have to follow through on. And when you do, there's absolute gold there, absolute gold.
That's fantastic. Jim, on that, I'm really fascinated by this. So I just want to ask you a few more questions about this. For a business like ours, where we've got our potential JVs are all over the world, we would never physically meet them because they are literally all over the world. Would this technique work with those guys as well?
Yes, it will. Let me talk a little bit about my friend Tom and what we're releasing together. These processes, because Tom and I are so closely aligned, we are releasing through Refer.com the first referral network in the world that's cloud-based, whereby you can build your referral team locally, regionally, or nationally, or in your case, internationally. Because ultimately, and if you have so number one, it's a referral team, and this 5th chapter that I'm going to make available to you and all of your constituents will lay this out and how it's presented through my character in that book at the time. So this chapter 5 will lay this out. but ultimately it's an online opportunity that tracks all of our reciprocal referrals. So for instance, fellows, if we decide we're going to be partners and you're inside my referral directory, you become one of 10 or 15 organizations that I'm working with internationally that ultimately I believe in you and can refer you, and you believe in me, can do the same thing. We can do this all in the cloud together. And so when you take basically my referral profile that talks about my testimonials and my background and things I do, that's a matter of that now you simply sending that out to your constituents around the world, and along with my value add offer. Likewise, then I would agree to do the same for you for a period of time, but this is all in the cloud. And it's based on what technology is today. That's why this is so exciting. That's what gets me up in the morning every day, is the ability for the technology to reach the world with the message. So yes, I hope I got you fired up on that.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely possible.
I want to say, look, Tim, thank you very much for that very kind offer of that free chapter. I can't wait to get that. And Drew and I are big into JV. So yeah, Drew and I will be looking at this and looking to implement it ASAP. So thank you very much for the generous offer to all the listeners as well. That's fantastic and very kind of you.
Super.
Yeah. Also, I mean, it's fascinating. Tim, sorry, can you give us an example of it in your current business or in past businesses that you've sort of built up, how referrals and JVs helped you?
Sure. I mean, absolutely. I mean, let me give you an example of probably the referral of a lifetime that I received was the referral to Ken Blanchard. Ken Blanchard, next to Peter Drucker and Deming, is probably one of the 3 top leaders in the world over the last century. Ken is in his 70s now. He's been all over the world. He has over 20 million books in print. The Ken Blanchard companies and their trainers are a worldwide organization. And I had a friend that knew Tom Kay, by the way. We were connected. His name was Vince Siciliano. Vince was a local banker in San Diego. We were in a number of groups together. We became friendly. We were in a mastermind group once a month. And so Vince and I became close friends. I did some talks for his bank, and locally he sponsored me to a number of regional events. And Vince was always a big supporter of mine and my work. Anyhow, Vince had a close personal relationship with Ken Blanchard. And as a young author starting out, I was young at the time, as a young author starting out, I, of course, wanted to connect with Ken Blanchard. But that was only a dream at that point. That was only a goal. And so, as a matter of fact, I talked to a number of other authors because I wanted Ken to write a foreword, and could that happen? Could they introduce me? And the doors were closed left and right for that. Well, anyhow, Vince knew Ken well. And Vince brought my book, the first edition of The Referral of a Lifetime, presented it to Ken and said, you really need to read this. And so one day, I'm in my office, and my secretary at the time, my admin, came into my office, and she said, you're never going to guess who's on the telephone. She whispered, he was on hold. It's Ken Blanchard. I said, wow, are you serious? I mean, my heart started pounding.
Wow, yeah.
And so, of course, I quickly try to compose myself in my most professional voice and confidence. I said hello, and I said, Tim, Ken Blanchard here, how you doing? I said, hey, Ken, I'm doing great. He said, now we both live in San Diego. He said, I just read your book, and I think it's marvelous. He said, what are you doing tomorrow morning? Well, guys, I'll tell you, whatever I had planned the next day, that got canceled or wasn't happening. I'm wide open, Ken. So he said, great, come on down to the RBN, great little resort close to our homes, and let's have breakfast and talk about what we can do with your book and this great message. And so we met. He made a deal that if I would come in and coach his executives on the principles of the book, he'd see that I got larger worldwide distribution, and he did. And through Barrett Kohler, he brought me into his one of his publishers, made a great introduction. He's now been my publisher for 20 years, and ultimately not only did the foreword, but the Ken Blanchard companies owns half the copyright. They basically partnered with me on the book and made the book the first book in the Ken Blanchard series. So Ken, because of that referral, because of Vince Siciliano, because of talking about it and him being proactive and bringing my book to Ken, I was referred to Ken. Now, that's for me, and that has opened up doors around the world for me. I mean, absolutely around the world, all because of Ken Blanchard. Now, here's the thing. I've got my referral of a lifetime through that, but you know what, Drew and Terry and all the listeners, you all have your Ken Blanchard sitting out there. They are waiting for you to deliver great work, put the relationship first, like I always did with Vince. And those individuals are ready to take your offer to your version of Ken Blanchard that will open up the doors for you worldwide. It's just a process in this philosophy of putting relationships first, incorporating it into our business, and moving through time and space like that. Now, here's the thing, guys. That's easier said than done because that's not how we're all wired, right? We're all wired about what's in it for us.
Yeah.
And it's a process we need to start with each day about thinking of the needs of others. And we need to wake up and actually think about how we're going to do that each day because we're not wired that way. And that's the process inside my writing and my work and what I coach on.
Yeah, you several times at the very beginning, Tim, the thing that comes across very strong with you, you talk about relationships, and it's almost every other word in your conversation, and it's great to hear how passionate you feel about relationships. And I think it'd be interesting your opinion. I think a lot of people kind of forget that sometimes, don't they? Some business owners can forget the importance of the relationship.
Terry, we all do. You know, I am, as Paul, the Apostle Paul talks in the Bible, I am the chief of sinners. I mean, all of us do that where we start putting the dollar signs on our foreheads and we walk in and because we all have responsibilities. We all have our own goals, our own dreams. And so every day we all get up but when we put the dollar signs on our forehead and we start talking to people about what our need is and what they can do for me, that telegraphs out to everyone. And so this idea of really going down this path to work at it, to build relationships, understanding when you really target those. And inside my book, I talk about the perfect client avatar. I shared who in advance as we start out, who's my perfect client. You know, I have Joey Osborne, who's a CEO of over a franchisor with 100 franchisees. He has big influence and that's the type of individual I serve best, that I can get to many through one individual. But I first approached Joey on what I could do for him. And just like that, if we have one thing we can encourage one another and everyone listening, are selecting those people that you can take your services and help them get to where they want to go. And as they do that, they're going to come back and ask you if you'd like a ride on their train to take you where you want to go.
Yeah.
And so that's the process that comes behind it, but it's a little unnatural starting out because we're not wired that way.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic, that is, Tim. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Tim, apart from referrals, which talk about quite a lot, and JVs, what do you do to grow your business? What's working for you at the moment?
Here's where I came. I was in the early 2000s, and I did a lot of speaking on stage. Listen, guys, I am so taken with technology. And in 2008, Google changed the world when they bought YouTube for $1.6 billion. We are in such a tremendous time, all of us, everyone listening right now. We have a window of time where we can communicate our messages with the world for free. Now, I said the word free. Look at us. I'm looking. Yeah, we were on video earlier together. We're on 2 different continents, and we're speaking real time together with listeners now listening to this on other continents, that we're sharing information, life stories, and possibly some business opportunities. We are in an extraordinary period of time. When I first started out, back when I think Moses was walking the world, we didn't have any of this. I mean, when I wanted to go out and teach, I had to go rent a hotel room. I had to go across the country. I had to have phone people fill the room and then stand on stage and share this story. And if people wanted to get involved, they had to come out to the hotel. Now, because of technology and video, I am in my home office in San Diego in my shorts, getting ready to go out and enjoy the sunshine after this call, and share great information. And so what I'm passionate about, what I'm doing right now, is the next 10 years of my life is all on video. I'll still do some keynotes where it's appropriate, but I'm sharing my message in my coaching all via video so that it can be captured on smartphone, on a laptop, and to the world for free. I mean, these airlines, let me just juxtapose that against. In the 1980s, I skipped a part of my history. I had after the factory, I had a company that if you wanted your product on Walmart or Kmart shelves, I had a national rep organization, relationships with all the major buyers, that I could have your product in front of those buyers in 30 days and get a yes or a no out of them. And so what happened was, one of the products I had, this was at the time Nintendo and Sega of America were launching. I represented a number of those companies. I was in the middle of all that. One of the product lines I had was an NFL product. It was an NFL board game. And we had Monday Night Football advertising every game for the entire season. Now, do you know how much Monday Night Football advertising costs for every game for the entire season? I mean, in those dollars, I mean, it was well over 7 figures that was invested for that. And we reached the country through that. And we had a phenomenal product launch whereby the executive VP of Toys R Us came into my office at the Toy Building in February of '87, Ron Tuckman, to congratulate me on the profitability Toys R Us made off of our product launch and thank me. That was because of the gazillions of dollars we spent on television. We're doing the same thing together for free.
Yeah.
We are in an extraordinary period of time. Anybody listening right now, hello, wake up. If you think you missed the boat hasn't left yet. The train is in the station. Get your stuff together, understand the technology, and get ready to get on a rocket ship and go for a ride. Hey, one of the best books and one of the best comments I read, obviously I have 3 daughters, was Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In, right? And Mike Schmidt, who's the CEO at the time of Google, was when Sheryl Landsberg first interviewed. She worked for Google before taking over as number 2 at Facebook, right? And so in the book, she talks about meeting Mike and getting offered the job of head of business development for Google. And she looked at him and knew him prior when he was lobbying in D.C. and when she lived on the East Coast. And she said, gee, I had all my nauseating MBA notes out about the pluses and minuses of each offer, and I showed it to Mike, and this was a great part in the book. And I showed him my little list that I had some other offers, and Google didn't even have a business development department at that time. He said, and then Mike gave me the best business advice I ever received in my life. He leaned over, he put his hand on my little piece of paper and moved it aside, looked me in the eyes and said, Sheryl, don't be an idiot. When someone offers you a seat on a rocket ship, take it. Doesn't matter what seat it is, take it. Friends, we are getting on board a rocket ship of free video for our messages, free medium and media throughout the world. Take advantage of it like we are taking advantage of it right now. Okay, I'm getting off the soapbox. End of story. I'm just a little passionate about it.
Yeah, listen, Tim, your passion and belief in it, it's contagious. It's absolutely fantastic. So please don't apologize. That's absolutely fantastic and so true as well. Again, thank you, Tim. That's been fantastic. Tim, there's so many questions and we're running out of time. Look, I know people listening to this are going to be really enthused and want to learn more about you, Tim. How can people reach out to you?
Well, here's the thing. Let me do this first. I'm going to give you a short text because I'll capture your contact information if you're interested in, and you'll have mine through it. I'm going to give you a short text code, can be used anywhere in the world. And the text code is this. If you text this message, and it's 58885, that is the short code text. And in the body of the text, simply type in RL, that's referral lifetime, RL, and the number 5, and hit send. That will come to me, and you'll follow the prompts with your email, and I'll send you the free complimentary copy of the Referral of a Lifetime, the 5th chapter, RL5, and we'll be able to connect through that. So that's one way, and I'd love to be able to do that as we go through the process. But any other way, anybody's interested, they can always go and send me an email via my website at tim@consultinggold.com. But either way, those are both passed. But I'd love for you to have a copy of my new chapter on the 5th chapter.
Great. And I see that you're also on LinkedIn. Is it okay for people to connect with you on LinkedIn?
Absolutely.
And I've got to say
just notify yourself when you do that it came through you, that it came through your podcast, so I know who you are.
Yeah, sure. And here's me asking if it's okay, and I'm telling the whole world that you're on LinkedIn, then asking you. It's the wrong way around, really. But yeah, seriously. Tim, thank you very much indeed. Fantastic. Yes, Drew.
Good stuff.
Awesome. Tim, again, been really good having you on the show. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to share your story, share your experiences, and share your message with our audience.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, I'm glad to be here, and just an encouragement to everyone. Hey, this is the first day of the rest of our lives. Let's go get them. The sun is out there, and the time is right. So we're in an extraordinary period of time. It's great being on your show, fellas, and really look forward to staying connected with both of you and building our personal and professional relationship as we go forward.
Brilliant.
Fantastic. Again, I want to really endorse what Drew said there. And again, thanks for your enthusiasm. Thanks for that very generous offer of the free chapter of your book as well. And just your general generosity and passion. It's fantastic. Thank you so much, Tim, for sharing.
Good stuff. It's all my pleasure.
This is the Maverick Marketer Unleashed podcast. Thanks for listening. I will speak with you again soon. Until then, take care, take action, and be relentless.
Show notes, additional resources, and podcast updates. Head over to www.maverickmarketerunleashed.com.